category is
What's going on, everybody? It's Goddess Kendra. Thank you guys for supporting my channel. I really appreciate it. So today we're going to do a recap on Pose Season 2, Episode 3, entitled Butterfly/Cocoon, directed by Janet Mock, who has made history last summer, as the first trans woman of color to write and direct any television episode. Butterfly/Cocoon proves to be an appropriate title for the episode 3 of Pose. The episode opens up with Angel's audition tape to be the Ford model fresh face of 1990. When was the last time you saw somebody who looked like me as a part of the campaign? She asked Elle Ford before explaining that she's doing this whole modeling thing for visibility and to be an example for anyone who was ever told they wouldn't amount to anything, or for anyone who looks like her. In other words, Angel sees herself not just as a supermodel, but a role model for any other trans woman. You see, Angel is a butterfly of the equation. The cocoon comes in form when technically an actual cocoon, but we'll get to that later. Shortly after her audition tape, Angel is understandably disappointed when she finds out she won't be receiving the cover title, and instead the Fresh Face Award goes to an unnamed blonde. Lil'Papi tries to console her and they kiss, which is weird because this whole time they have thought of each other as siblings. They do live under the same roof and share a house mother, but they're not actually related by blood. This isn't the Game of Thrones. Eventually, Angel gets another call from Elle Ford and discovers that she will be the face of a Wet n Wild campaign and ends up nailing the shoot before dancing the night away at Palladium with Isaac Mizrahi, who tells her she is the face of the 90s. The only upside of her journey to stardom is that she flakes on a date with her brother/boyfriend. Eventually, Blanca says what we're all thinking about the soap opera, that Angel and Lil'Papi, by asking Damon, who needs the young and the restless when you got this? The real meat of this episode, however, concerns Elektra, who is back at work at Dominatrix in a sex dungeon. Paul, her client for the last week with a penchant for poppers, brings along a gas mask and asks to be left alone for 20 minutes while the drugs kick in. Despite Elektra's protests against drug use, I cannot condone the use of drugs in my presence. I don't even take Tylenol. She snaps at him. Paul pays the mistress a hefty sum, and she obliges against her better judgment. Time passes, and Elektra realizes she hasn't heard a peep from Paul, and when she goes to check on him, he chokes on his vomit and died. Elektra hurries to Blanca, who insists she call the police. They seek out Candy, now revealed to be working as a stripper, who brings them to a friend of hers who once got herself in a little mix-up with an abusive John, who, while beating her nearly to death, was able to convince the police to arrest her instead and send her to prison on Rikers Island, where she was abused by a prison guard. The conversation of four women have about what to do with Paul's body is just a small taste of the harsh reality trans women face when up against the state. Paul is a white business executive who would be found dead at any moment in a sex dungeon operated by transgender women. Candy and her friend bring up a good point. How could the police possibly believe anything Elektra says, even when she did not kill Paul and his death should be ruled an accident? For girls like this, the system is never on our side, they conclude, before Candy comes up with another idea. Remember last season when Candy and Angel went to a risky doctor who offered silicone implants and injections, and Candy almost died from her? Well, it turns out that shady lady runs another operation covering up murders. After some prodding, she agrees to help, but only if Candy and Elektra can answer her questions regarding Paul. I just need to know how big of a suitcase I need to bring. She deadpans. After collecting the body, they go back to Elektra's house and concoct a plan to cover up the murder. Elektra asks to say a prayer, but Candy, who recognizes Paul as a pig of a customer who was banned from her place of work for roughing up girls backstage, says he got what he deserved. He is a human being, some mother's son, Elektra tells her. They hold hands against Candy's wishes and says a prayer as a I'm sorry, you guys. Candy wishes and says a prayer as a word on the noise chooses of song Shame by Evelyn Champagne King soundtrack the scene. Then the real cover begins. They sprinkle lye over Paul's body and wrap him in cloth and pleather like a mummy so that when the body starts decomposing there is no smell or evidence left behind. That's the Cocoon we mentioned earlier. Looking back at the first season of Pose, we would have thought that the show would ever wade into musky murder territory like Elektra, wrapping up dead bodies and burying him in the closet. Well, if you look at history, there's an answer to that. So far this season, Pose has done a fantastic job of naturally weaving real historical events and people in the narrative of the episode. The first episode featured a reenactment of the 1989 Act of Dying protest at St. Patrick's Cathedral, and the episode 2 introduced Patti LuPone as Frederica Norman, a racist real estate tycoon loosely based on Leon Hemsley. In episode 3, the impact Paris is Burning has been on the developing of the series and stronger than ever. The story of Dorian Corey, who is featured promptly in Pose, primarily source material. Paris is Burning is likely the basis for the story of Elektra's mummification moment. Corey, a legend in the ballroom community, and reason anyone these days has an inkling of an idea of how the master of the art shade died in 1993 after a struggle with AIDS. A close friend of hers named Lois Taylor entered Corey Harmon's apartment after her death with the intention of going through her old clothes. When she opened up the closet, she realized Corey left more than she had bargained. A mummified dead guy with a gunshot wound to the head stuffed inside a trunk. The man was eventually identified as Robert Bobby Worley, who had been convicted of rape and assault and went missing in 1968. Whoa! Authorities were able to decide that he had been mummified for nearly 2 decades. New York Magazine covered the story shortly after Corey's death, but it remained unsolved until this day. Back in Poseland, Blanca reminds Elektra that she did what she had to do to protect herself, and even though the story of a missing business executive was picked up by the New York Post, everyone will forget about it in a month. All of the various house mothers may not always see eye to eye, but when the outside world tries to tear us down, this army closes rank, Elektra says. Yes, Pose is a historical drama, but it won't let you forget that it's a family drama too. The episode ends with a quote from the late Corey. Everyone wants to make an impression, some mark upon the world. Then you think you made a mark on the world if you just get through it. And a few people remember your name, then you're left a mark. Angel, the butterfly with her face, sweat in wild spring, products, has inched towards making a mark of her own. Elektra, humbled by her action of stuffing Paul into a cocoon, has certainly let an indelible mark too, one that she probably spend the rest of her life regretting. Oh. Almost a year after the show, 2 mid-pandemic specials. Oh, I'm so sorry. So that's crazy. I had heard that Pose was based off of real people and stuff like that. But man, I didn't know that man, Paul, was accused of rape and sexual assault. So, dang, she had him in that closet for 20 years. That's crazy. But I always tell people, when you do messed up things, guess what? There's a thing called karma, and you're not going to like it when something happens to you. That's why I truly try to be respectful of people and not be rude, because you never know. Someone could show you some kind of compassion when you really need it. Like, even to this day, I've had people say thank you for helping me out years ago. And I've been in situations where I needed help, and guess what? They helped me, and I was very grateful for feeling okay. Like, for reals. You never know when you may need somebody, and like I always say, be grateful, but you can't walk around this world thinking you're gonna do harm to people. You can do rape and assault and like nothing's gonna come back on you. Heck no, you gotta be out your mind. Life don't work like that, and there's a little thing called karma. So, hey, that's what Paul gets. I'm definitely going to look up this case more. But yeah, be right to people, man.